Hey, do you know what time it is? That's right. It's time for Coach Lindy's podcast. The podcast to get you moving. Hi, I'm Lindy Hutchinson, a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. As a life coach, I help others transform their life as I have mine. It's not easy, but it is possible, and it most certainly is worth it. Each week, I'll share insights that inform, inspire, and ignite in you your desire to create a life that you love. So let's find out what's going on this week. Can one person make a difference? Well, we all know that one person can make a huge difference. Now, if I were to say the word treehouse to you, that sounds like a lot of fun. Well, we have a story about a hero, a lady, who lived in a treehouse, but it wasn't really fun. There was a very important purpose. You may or may not have heard about her. She has a unique name that she got as a young girl. Her formal name is Julia Hill, but they call her Butterfly. And that's because her family, who was very outdoorsy, they travel a lot because her dad was a traveling minister, and she grew up in a 32-foot camper. And while they were out hiking, a butterfly landed on her finger, and it liked it. So they ended up calling her Butterfly, and that was her informal nickname pretty much for the rest of her life. Today, Julia Butterfly is 52 years old, but she found herself in an interesting situation. She became an activist in California. There was a 200-foot redwood that she ended up saving by living in it. A little background story. Her family spent time when she was in middle school in Arkansas, and they traveled the area, as I mentioned, because her dad was a minister. She was kind of a workaholic. She was in a bad accident, not her fault. Her car was hit by a drunk driver. And afterwards, apparently she began to see things a little differently. Sometimes when we have a brush with death, we kind of reevaluate. And of course, there was a lot of spirituality, so no doubt she was a deep thinker anyway. But she ended up as a young lady going to California, and they were interested in saving the forest. And since she was an outdoorsy camping person, trees meant a lot to her. Well, there was an area in Humboldt County, California, where they were doing something called clear-cutting redwood trees. And this was in 1996. And there was a group of what they call frontliners and people protesting to save the trees. In fact, on New Year's Eve in 1996, there was a landslide that was caused because they had cut out all the trees, and there was 17 feet of mud and debris that buried 8 homes. So something needed to be done. Organizers wanted someone to stay in the tree for a week. And she said no one else volunteered, so they picked me. Of course, she was young, healthy, and fit. And she loved the outdoors, and she was outdoorsy. So she ended up climbing up the tree that they ended up naming Luna, or Moon. So she climbed up with a harness, and she climbed up the tree, and she ended up living 738 days on two 6x4 platforms. She learned survival skills by using a solar-powered cell phone for radio interviews. She became an in-tree correspondent for a cable TV show. And she actually hosted TV crews to protest the old growth clear cutting. At night, she would sleep in a sleeping bag with barely her nose and mouth showing because it was freezing rains, and 40-mile-an-hour winds. And on top of that, there was helicopter harassment by the lumber company. There was at one point a 10-day siege by the company's security guards. And there were attempts at intimidation by angry loggers. Here's a young woman up in this tree dealing with the wind, dealing with the rain, dealing with the elements, and they're giving her hell. Wow. Anyway, a resolution was achieved in 1999 when the Pacific Lumber Company agreed to preserve the tree and all the trees within a 200-foot buffer zone. Unfortunately, vandals a few months later were able to cut a gash into Luna that measured 32 inches deep and 19 feet around the base. The good news is there was a Eureka civil engineer, Steve Salzman, who headed Luna, the tree, medical team, and they designed and built a bracing system to help it withstand the windstorms, which can go anywhere from 60 to 100 miles an hour. And the tree, as of now, is doing well and probably one of the most famous trees on the planet. But we have a lot to feel inspired about and feel grateful for people like Miss Julia. I don't know if you're seeing the video. Julia Butterfly Hill. To this day, and since then, she has been active in letting people know the importance of our planet, the importance of being stewards of the planet. There have been books written, movies made, articles written. She's traveled all over the world. She's been a spokesperson. And aren't we grateful that there are people like Julia Butterfly Hill who aren't afraid and they will take a stand. She thought she'd probably be up there about a week, and she stayed there 738 days. So the question is, what would we do? Well, you might say I don't like heights, or I'm not really an outdoor person, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is, would we take a stand? And we want that answer to be yes. So anytime that we have a chance to raise our voice, speak up, speak out, write, sign a petition, the more we stand up, the more other people will stand up. And in this case, it just took one lady, and she beat a powerful lumber company and saved, no doubt, a lot of damage and some very precious trees that we may never get back. So ask yourself, could I be like Julia Butterfly Hill? I know you can, and I certainly expect that I will. That is my thought process. We want to be a united, concerned group, and we want to keep building and creating a life that we love because we deserve it. We deserve to enjoy a beautiful planet and to be people who make the change, make the ones who stand up and get things done and protect our families, our loved ones, and our planet. So thank you, Julia Butterfly Hill, because you weren't afraid to go up into a very tall tree and protect the trees, much like the Lorax. For those of you who are Dr. Seuss fans, save the trees. So ask yourself, what am I doing? What we say and do every day makes a difference. If we show respect, we show we care, we make a difference. It doesn't always have to be big. You don't have to be in a tree for almost 2 years in the wind and the rain. We affect change just by our positive attitude and our positive example. So, my friend, as always, I enjoy being with you. I don't have a funny today, but we'll do that next time. Have a great week. And remember, keep building a life that you love because you deserve it. Hey, thanks for joining me this week. I look forward to being with you every week. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, please email me at coachlindy@lindyhutchinson.com. My name is spelled L-Y-N-D-I, so it's Coach Lindy, L-Y-N-D-I, at Lindy Hutchinson, LYNDIHUTCHINSON.com. I value what your input is, and I'm always open up for suggestions and ideas. If you will like and or subscribe to this podcast, that would be wonderful. I appreciate it. And I enjoy anything that you might want to send in, or if you would like some more information about coaching, send me an email and I will get back with you, and we'll talk about how you can create your best life. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.